Connecticut Today with Paul Pacelli on WICC 600 AM and 107.3 FM.
All right, now, there is still in place, at least as we speak, a plan that I have tried to warn you about over and over again to phase out. And if you ask people about this in Hartford, they kind of tap dance around what that means. But starting in about 4 model years in 2027 or so, and then leading to an eventual phase out, wink, wink, nod, nod, in 2035, the sale of any new internal combustion engine car or truck here in Connecticut. Now, that is being adhered to because we have hooked on with California's emission standards. That was back during the rolling years. But that may or may not be happening. There's a key vote of a committee, from what I understand, coming up in a couple of weeks. And who knows, this may hit litigation. We don't know. But one of the folks who's keeping an eye on this, among many we've talked to, our buddy Chris Herb from the Connecticut Energy Marketers Association, who joins us right now. He's been with us numerous times on the show. Hey, Chris, it's Paul here. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good, Paul. Thank you. I don't know how good I am with this proposal that's in front of us.
So, Chris, and I know a lot of people, unless they've been living under a rock, don't know what's going on here. So brief us a little more in detail, if you will, here. And I understand there's a key meeting and a key vote coming up in a few weeks that may actually stall this thing or push it ahead. So what's going on?
Well, I would say actually it's more than key. It's a final vote. So on November 28th, the Regulations Review Committee, which is a committee within the Connecticut General Assembly, our elected officials in the House and Senate sit on it, and they will vote to consider whether or not to mandate the sale of electric vehicles in the future, starting, as you said, in model year 2027. So starting in that year, we would slowly but surely, and actually quickly in the beginning, start to lose the option of being able to purchase traditional vehicles that we drive today. And I'll just note that within 2 years of the regulation going into effect, if we fail to kill it, 51% of all vehicles will have to comply with this electric mandate. So it's not something that doesn't move slow. It's coming quick, and the November 28th is the final vote.
The Regulations Review Committee, Chris, is bipartisan. There's an equal amount of Democrats and Republicans. And from what I've been reading, it is rare that they ever vote to kill something, which they can't, but they can't technically do it because it already passed in the General Assembly. But kind of the keys to the car, no pun intended, they have to give the okay to implement this whole thing. And did I read correctly that there may be 1 or 2 Democrats here? There may be a little bit of people getting a soft spine on this because of blowback. What are you hearing?
Well, so you are correct. This is one of the rare committees that is bipartisan. It takes 8 votes to kill it. So you really just need, if assuming the Republicans all vote against, and that's what we've been told, you really only need 1 Democrat to vote against to kill these. And from a technical standpoint, I'm going to tell you that there's a few things that the people who are listening should know. Mm-hmm. Some of these regulations passed into law 19 years ago, a generation ago, when the legislature could have never conceived that California would require 100% of all vehicles being sold to be electricity. So, politically, we are hearing that there are a number of Democrats on the committee who have questions and some of them severe issues with them.
Yeah, so again, Chris, if you, like you said, and all indications are the 7 Republicans on the committee will likely stick together and vote no. What then happens if at least 1 Democrat votes no? And I guess from what I heard, they say the person who may actually do it, well, they say that Joan Hartley from Waterbury, she has misgivings about this, and Kathy Austin, also from the eastern part of the state, Chris, is the other name I hear as well. So what happens if one of those folks breaks with the party? Is this thing dead, or is it on hold, or can they make changes here? What's the deal?
Yeah, Paul, I can't speak for any individual legislator. We know that a lot of them have questions. You named a couple who may, but yes, if one person decides one of those two or others, then the regulations die. It takes 8 votes under the rules to kill them, and then the legislature would have to consider in the 2024 February session whether or not they wanted to have the entire legislature re-vote on moving forward with this or something else. I just want to note, Paul, we're not opposed to clean air regulations. We're just saying that EPA is the better option, not California. California's regulations might be good for California people. They're not good for Connecticut.
And as you mentioned, Chris Herb, and I've been trying to let my listeners know about this because, people would say, well, the environment, this and that. But you're right. This was passed and signed on to during the Rowland years, 2004. So you're right. We're coming up on a generation 20 years ago when, Chris, the idea, there were some early hybrids out there. I don't think anything electric was out there. And people kind of looked at them and they were pricey and they still are. But nobody, Chris Herb, could have conceived of the changes that have happened in a generation, which I think makes that 2004 thing we signed on to at least have the need to review.
Well, absolutely. I think it was more likely that legislators thought there could be flying cars a generation later than there was going to be all electric cars. I mean, this is something that is important to the average person because they cost more. They don't go as far. You have to install special charging equipment in your house. And if you live in an apartment, you may not even have access when you're sharing multiple residents and not have access to those chargers. So there are practical reasons that 20 years ago the legislature could have never conceived of. It needs to be fairly considered by the legislature in 2024. These regulations need to die on November 28th.
All right. Well, so what can folks do, Chris Herb, if they are concerned and they want to voice their concern or opposition to this? What do you suggest?
Yeah, the same advice that I give you every time I'm on, Paul, is that they should call their local senator, their local state representative, and have them encourage their colleagues on the Regulations Review Committee to vote against the California regulations that require the sale of electric cars and electric trucks.
All right, Chris Herb, thank you, Chris. Good to chat with you, and we'll catch up down the road. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Paul.
I appreciate it, Chris Herb.